Jeremy is back. I have been anticipating recording this since we set it up. So I'm really, really excited to dive into all of the things because so we're getting ready to launch a new round of our group coaching program in January. And I love when advisor friends of mine reach out to me and they're like, I want to talk about something really cool. And it's so in alignment with all of the things that we do inside of our program. And so when you reached out about this, I was like, yes, because I love when somebody else adds their spin or preaches the same message, but in a slightly different way. So I'm really, really excited to dig into this. So, Jeremy, thank you for being back on the show. It's been a minute. So, why don't you just kind of share your journey and get people back up to speed on all things Jeremy Keil?
Yeah, well, I'm a financial advisor. I've been a financial advisor for 22 years, and I focus exclusively in the retirement planning area. And yeah, growing a business, growing a family, just trying to make a difference in the world. That's what I've been up to.
I love it. I love it. Well, you've been up to a lot. So that was like an absolute understatement. So no, number one, I'm sure you have been out there seeking designations. If anyone knows Jeremy, Jeremy has how many designations do you have now?
I don't know. I should count because everyone asks me that, but it's around 10.
Is
Just
around
say
10.
that. Yeah.
There's just like a lot of letters. There's a lot of letters
Yes.
happening. And what I love about you, and I don't even know if you remember telling me this, but several years ago when you were on the show, you shared that like one of your missions was to become a learn it all so that you can become a know it all, so that you can become a share it all. And like, it's been fun watching you from afar and even up close, just like this voracious appetite for learning and being better and just refining and fine tuning everything that you're doing inside of your business. And so when you say you haven't been up to a lot, that's an absolute lie because you just launched a book.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Well, good. So today we're getting into one of kind of the core tenets, as far as I'm concerned, is like building your processes, right? So obviously everyone listening knows that I love systems and I love processes, but I'd love for you to share kind of your take on this idea of what we call productizing your process and why having a defined tangible or trying to take what, is an intangible service offering and turn it into a more of a tangible product for your clients. So tell us a little bit about how you've done that. What was sort of the evolution of that? And what have you seen as a result of really turning your process into something specific?
Yeah, I've got a five-step retirement planning process. You mentioned the book. It took me until I wrote the book to actually name the process. We'll talk about that. It's been on my mind of how do I name this process, but finally got it there. But with the process, what's interesting is I've been talking retirement. I've been talking to all these people for 22 years, and what I realized quickly is that uh, people were asking me what to do, and they were asking me similar things what to do. And
Mhm.
then if I just came in and said, well, here's how we go about doing things before they even ask the questions, they're like, oh my goodness, like that's what I came for. And so listening to your clients and then developing the process out of that of here's how we do things. I might have shared this with you previously, but like I said, it's been a little while. Clients like to know what is your doing process? Like what is it that you do? They also like to know the buying process. Like how do I actually sign up to have you do the things that you do? So that's kind of two processes there to keep in mind. But I'll go back even further. When you're creating a process, when you're thinking of how do you maybe make this more tangible, it all starts back with who do you actually serve? So I've got a
Mhm.
kind of a mantra around with your business marketing is that you don't start with marketing. You start with your brand first, which is who you are and who you serve. That's followed by your message, which is how do you speak with who you serve? And then finally, it's your marketing, which is how do you find who you serve? And the process is a bit of the how do you speak with who you serve, but also who is it that you serve? It just turns out a lot of engineer, financial analysts, CPAs. I've got a lot of accountants as clients. You think, why would they show up to a financial advisor? And it's because they're very detail oriented. I'm very detail oriented. So that's a little bit of who I am. And then listening to them and trying to solve their issues. Okay, we've got a process now. A lot of engineers, they have a process at work. And then they go talk to financial advisors who have no process. There's a disconnect. They don't like that. And so when I say, well, here's the process, they love it because they know how processes work for them and they want to apply that to the financial world.
Yeah, I love that. So, how did you stumble upon so in our world, we call it your ideal client avatar. How did you stumble upon, hey, this is who I like to work with? So, I get this from new advisors all the time. Like, do I just pick a profession? Do I just pick some qualitative or quantitative qualities about clients? How did you really come across like your niche and how long did it take?
Yeah, so I'll start with who do I not like to work with? That's maybe a
Yes.
process of elimination. I remember going to the door of a couple, right? You book an appointment at 7 o'clock on a Thursday because you just started out and you're going to their house. You'll do anything for an appointment. And I went and knocked on the door. And I rang the doorbell. I hear them upstairs, like yelling at their kids to take a bath, and they never came to the door. And I thought, I don't want to work with 30-year-old couples. Like they're too busy, you know? And then there's often I talk to folks that are maybe 45. Here I am 45 right now. Seemed like they knew it all. Like, who's this young guy telling me what to do? But for some reason, when I talked to a 55-year-old, like they were in it. Like it was, I think people freak out about 50 or 55. Like, oh my goodness, I'm this close to retirement. I need to get some help. I need someone to guide me. And I was coming in, listening and researching and helping them out. And they just loved. They were willing to take the advice. That was my experience, and everyone else probably has a different experience. So then, talking to them, the 55-year-olds, and me doing research, I kept running into things where people would have a pension, and I would get their summary plan description, and I would research it, and I would model it into Excel, or I'd run into people with company stock on their 401k, and I'd research these tax rules, and I'd ask around, and no one else had ever heard of these tax rules, but they're saving clients tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars. So those two things of I just kind of ran into these areas. I researched it. I shared that here's the results, and things look pretty good if you follow the math of what we've discovered. And then they start talking to others. And of course, I love it when I can solve a problem. I love it when people say that I know what I'm doing. And so it just really turned into these 55, 60, 65-year-olds that are they work for a public company with a pension, employer stock, and they've got questions. I researched. I didn't have the answers right away, but I took the time to research it. That's kind of how I stumbled upon it, but I'll give you the exact exercise. How's that sound?
Great, I love
Yeah.
it.
All right. So the exact exercise is about 7 years ago. I was going through some branding, and the person asked me, who is your ideal client? And I started talking about it, and then I realized, wait a second, I've had these clients for a few years. I want to find out who was the client when they signed up. And so
Mhm.
I went back to when they actually signed up with me. What was their age? What was their problem? Like what were they trying to get solved? And I really broke down it as two ideal clients. There's two clients that were showing up at my door. It was basically the 50-year-old, 53-year-old is actually the average age. And they're saying, okay, I'm 10 years away from retirement. What do I do? And then there's basically a 62-year-old, like, I'm 10 months away from retirement. What do I do? And there's basically no one in between. There's nobody older. There's nobody younger. It's like 53 and 62-year-olds. That's who was showing up at my door. And so I did all my branding and messaging around these two ideal client avatars. And interesting enough, once I did that, it almost kind of shifted because all that messaging was online. The people
Mhm.
online that were searching for me, at least, were the 62-year-olds. So now it's like 90% of the 62-year-olds that are about to retire. I call that the imminent retiree. And so now that's all my messaging. I figure don't do anything 90% of the way, just do it 100% of the way. So all the messaging about the 53-year-olds, that's off my website because they just weren't looking for me as much. It's all the 62-year-olds. They are imminently retiring. Let's go help them out.
I love that. So how long, like what was the time frame from when you redid all of the branding and you had the two ideal client avatars to the point where you finally just eliminated the one and went all in on the 62-year-olds?
That was probably so I did the first kind of study of my clients about
Mhm.
7 years ago. And then it was back in, it was about 4 years ago. So it was just realizing it took a little while, but I realized,
Mhm.
wait a second, it's been a few years. Let me just redo this exercise again. And then the, the
Okay, that
numbers
was
were
gonna be my next
drastically
question
different.
is how did you come up, was it actually going back and measuring and looking at data? Was it a gut instinct or was it just a part of my, rhythms as a CEO is to go back and redo these exercises periodically?
Yeah, I should have had it scheduled. I didn't. I was doing the story brand virtual. I mean, this is back in COVID time, right? So I was doing the story brand virtual training, and they're
Oh
talking about
yeah.
ideal client avatar and that kind of stuff. And I thought, I just did this a few years ago. It's been too long. Let me do this again.
Yeah, I love it. So what I want to like double click on there is that it's not a one and done. And it's funny because when advisors come to the group coaching program, we do some foundational work. We do what is your brand? What is your messaging? Who is your ideal client avatar? And I always call it like the eye roll work. Like it's the work that we're all like, oh, I know who I serve, or I know my brand, or and nobody really wants to carve out. Like everyone wants to jump right to what are the processes that are going to save me time and money? And it's like, nope, we got to do this stuff first. And downside is you have to do it over and over again. Like it's not a one and done process. So thank you for echoing that. And so when will you plan on doing it again?
I should probably do it again right now. It's probably been too long. So
Okay, okay.
I need to schedule these things, Libby.
Yeah, so you were listening to your clients, you were developing your brand, you started honing in your message more and more. So tell me a little bit about what is your five-step process and and at what point did you say like, oh, this is the process that I use? And it's funny because you and we've known each other a long time. We've had a very similar story. We had a very similar start at Thrivent. We were both super young. Um, we both serve. I was a total nerd, so I served all the engineers for Procter and Gamble, the chemists, the scientists, like all of the people who loved a good process. So I think we have a very similar journey in that way. But tell me a little bit about like the development of your five-step process, and then what does it look like now?
Yeah, the development was really based on 15 years ago, back in, I'll start over a bit. The development was really from the great financial crisis, where there were people that were kind of calling me and they're really investment focused and they were
Mhm.
just incredibly concerned. The market dropped, and I'm trying to tell them, like, it's not a big deal. You'll get through it. We've got a plan. But then there's others where they weren't calling me. And I did my normal quarterly reviews and asked how it's going. They say, well, I'm not really concerned about it because I know I have a plan. And what the plan was basically my 5-step process. I just didn't really, you know, codify it. I didn't have it named
Mhm.
and through. And so I realized after a meeting, I was probably 30 minutes away from the office, and they told me everything's great. You helped me figure this out, put some money in short-term income a few years back. Then the market dropped. I'm going to be fine. I kept thinking, why is this client okay, but these other clients are kind of tearing their hair out? Why is
Mhm.
it? And I realized it's the ones that went through the process. And so I thought, okay, I need to do this with everybody. I need to make it more tangible. And I spent probably 10 years total doing dozens, probably 50 retirement seminars a year. So you talk to 500 audiences and you suggest, here's how it's working, here's how I do retirement planning, and you can kind of see whether they're getting it or not. And then you talk to a prospect and you can kind of see if they're getting it or not. And then you can talk to your clients, you can see if they kind of get it or not. But it was just trying different orders, trying different things. What the scientific method, right? We're just trying
That's
things out, and then you start realizing it almost kind of bubbles up. It's almost like you discover it, not create it. Okay,
Mhm.
this is the first step, and the second step, and the third step, and the fourth step, and the fifth step. So trial and error, always trying to learn scientific process. That's how I discovered. Here's how I take people through for retirement planning.
And did it live in your head for a long time, or were you like immediately starting to document the process and create some standard operating procedures around it?
It lived in my head for too long, but I was consistently getting out of my head in front of, kind of one on one. And then, you draw, right? I get the white pad. I still have a white pad with Thrivent. Thrivent makes really good white pads. So I still got my white pads from Thrivent here. And so you draw it out and you look at your notes after a client meeting and realizing, wait a second, they kind of really got it when I circled this and I put an arrow to there. And the next thing you know, I started experimenting of, okay, do I do this like in a circle, like the CFP kind of process? I had it like more like an at symbol. It's like almost like a concentric circle. And you try different
Mm-hmm.
things and kind of see where it really lands with people. I finally now kind of settled on a puzzle. So it's more like what would that be? A landscape puzzle, how I explain it to people. But you just try different things and see what works. And it's really, what are you solving for? You're solving for helping your clients make better decisions with their money. And when you tell people on 101, here's how it works, and then you've now got a consistent messaging, a consistent visual, then you want to run with it. And I remember putting I put it onto a 2-page sheet. Like I actually paid somebody to graphic, put it in visual graphics all, and I would hand that to clients, and they would like bring it back, and they're like, okay, we're on this step. Okay, we're on this step.
Hmm.
I'm like, okay, then I got it. Like
Yeah.
this is it.
Well,
It's
so
resonating.
okay, I want to talk about kind of two parts then. So one, I want to say like once you kind of solidified your process, you had a graphic designer make it pretty, you had something that you could very concretely show a client. How did it change the experience for the clients? And then I want to talk about what did that look like on the back end for you from training other advisors, like tightening up your process, like doing it better, faster, not missing things. So let's talk about first, like how did the client start responding when you had this two-pager?
Yeah, so there's two kind of steps there. How did it change the experience with the clients? The first step is that it used to be somebody would come into our office and I'd kind of just do the process for them. And I remember two clients in particular, this is back in like 2017 or 18, and they both had financial advisors. They both came to me because they say, I'm getting all these questions on Social Security and Medicare and how much income can I live on? All these questions they have. And I say, great, here's the process. Let me take you through and show you. It came to the answer. Here's the answers. And neither one of them signed up with me. Like I met them
Hmm.
both if I got a 5-step process, I had 5 meetings. And at the end, they said, yeah, this is great. Appreciate all your time. There's no reason to work with you. Like you already answered all the process. So right then I decided I will never do work for a non-client again. What I do is I share the process now. So a first meeting, somebody comes in and I spend 2/3 of the time hearing from them. They're telling me what they want. I'm asking them good questions. And then I ask, do you mind if I share the process with you of how we go about doing things? And they say yes. And then I share the process. Here's step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I check in after every step. Like, how does that sound? Um, well, I get some answers on like social security amounts and dollar amounts, things like that, kind of going through and checking with them. And at the end, I said, how does that look to you? And they say, well, that's exactly why I'm here. That's what I'm looking for. Say,
Hmm.
okay, well, the next step then to work together is this. And so they were getting the doing process, they were getting the buying process. I was doing probably less total work for them to sign up to become a client because they were bought in quicker. I thought, beforehand, I thought I have to I have to actually do the work. And then if you like me enough, there's a good probability you'll actually sign up for me to do the work again. But I was running into people just getting the work done and walking away. So now I said, let me just show you what's going to happen. So that was the first experience. The second experience that changed with the clients is now that I've got this all online. Like I've got in the podcast, the YouTube videos, the book now, my website. Now people are showing up and they're saying, okay, I was listening to step 3 and I had a question about that. Or, okay, I went through your 5-step retirement process videos. Yeah, that's what I want to do. So it's like they're getting the process before they even walk in the door. So it's kind of a 2-stage situation for me, both all good for them because they show up because that's what they want, or they walk away before they even had a chance to walk in and they didn't waste their time. I didn't waste my time.
Yeah, absolutely. So I feel like what you're doing is you are intentionally with your marketing entering a conversation that they are already having in their heads, whether it's with themselves, with their spouse. Like, hey, these are the things we need to figure out. You're sprinkling in probably some things that they didn't even know that they needed to think about, and and they're paying a fee for the financial planning now. Is that
No,
right?
we can talk about that another time, but
Okay.
I've dialed my process down in the business and
Hmm.
got rid of all these little things where it took a lot of effort, but the revenue was 1% of the business. It's
Right.
like, okay, why
Okay.
am I going to spend 5% effort on 1% revenue? And so the clients that work best with me have all these questions on financial planning, retirement planning, and they want us to manage their finances. So now,
Mhm.
actually, if you want to book on my website, you want to book an intro call, I ask them a few questions. One of them is, how close are you to retirement? Because if you're too far away, I'm just not the guy for you.
Mhm.
Another one is related to assets because we've discovered, okay, we need to have charge a minimum fee overall. And if you aren't going to have the assets to pay the minimum fee, then here's some other suggestions. I have a listing of places people can go. But one of them is, do you want to have a financial advisor manage your investments? And a lot of people want hourly financial planners. They don't want somebody else to manage their investments. And that's awesome. When you click that button, I say, here's 3 or 4 suggestions of the people that you're looking for. But then they
Mhm.
can't book on my calendar. And previously, I had about 4 years of data on this. I had 130 people book intro calls on my website. I got one hourly client out of it in 4 years. In the last 3 years, since I've changed this around, I've had about 130 people book on my website. Probably 500 actually go there, but about 130 people book on the website. And we're up to about 10 or 15 of those that have become clients because we've kind of narrowed down of they know the expectations ahead of time. Here's the people that
Yeah.
we serve. And if they aren't the niche that we have, well, we've got a list. Here's places you can go. I want to help you out, but it's just not us.
Yeah, I love that. It's important to make sure that any yes is an actual good yes. So one of the other byproducts that I noticed for me in my own practice when we productize our offering, right? And it's very intangible what we do for people and how do we actually take it from this intangible state and create it into something that's very tangible that they understand exactly what they're getting. And what we found it was so much easier. It was two things. It was so much easier to explain to clients when we had this really defined, named, stepped process. And it made it so much easier for them to buy into because they understood exactly what they were getting, what was in scope, what was out of scope, what the deliverable would be at the end of it, what they would be feeling when they were done with it. And it made it so much easier to sell and easier to buy. The other thing that we noticed, and I want to get to what you ultimately called your process, but the other thing we noticed was how much simpler it became for us to deliver. Like our speed to deliver the process became so much tighter. We started building SOPs for each step. It had, it was named. We know what were the micro commitments the client was making, who was involved in the meeting, what were the documents that we needed, what was the process to get the client data, who was putting it into, in our case, Money Guide Pro, who was putting it into the tax software, who was doing the analysis, who was crafting the recommendations. And it made everything, our delivery, so our revenue per hour went way up because we were 80% of our process was the same because we served the same type of client. We had a tight process. It still left room variance for customization to the client, but the vast majority of the people that we were working with, like you, had the same problems. They needed the same solutions. They had similar uh, makeup in what they looked like as ideal client avatars, similar makeup in compensation packages, assets, et cetera, with a little variance. But what we found is it made it easier for me to delegate, and it sped up the actual creation of the plan. What other things have you noticed on the back end by having a defined process?
Yeah, it's exactly that there where we've got the 5 steps. Here we go. I now call it the retirement master plan. I used to call it the 5-step retirement income plan. I just kind of described it. Now I've kind of named it. I feel like it's helped out a bit because then people know more of,
Mhm.
okay, this is the Jeremy Keil plan and
I
his
like that.
advisors, which is also helpful too because it doesn't have to be the Jeremy Keil plan. It could be any other advisor, and it's awesome. It's fun to me. I've got my other advisor, John, in the room next to me. I'll hear him on a phone call and he's just describing every single thing the way I would describe it because
Yeah.
he's heard me do it. He's seen me map out the process. He's seen me. I've got the videos. He's watched the videos. He's listened to the podcast. He's read the book, right? He's knows exactly. And the next person, it'll be the same thing where they can go through and just deliver the process. That even just having a process right there is helpful. In that I started out as the solo advisor, and at one point I transferred 150 clients to have John as the advisor, not me.
Mhm.
And it was about 2 years later when a client called me up and said, "Wait a second, are you not my advisor anymore?" I said, "Well, how's it going with John?" They said, "Good." I said, "Well, he's been your advisor for 2 years." And they said, "Oh, okay." It's because he just was following the same process that I do, following
Mhm.
the same cadence where every quarter we send out a email asking for some level of appointment. And we say, this quarter 1, we go through this. It's time to book that. It was just coming out from his email instead of mine. So they booked on his calendar, went through it, and they were fine because they were getting the same planning, the same process. So having a defined process will help you transition clients to the right advisor, help you train new advisors. I was just listening to a recent podcast you had about one of your coaching clients the amount of people that were signing up for their quarterly meetings was kind of dwindling down, which he kind of
Mm-hmm.
assumed like, okay, well they're good to go with me. That's fine. But then he started saying, okay, quarter three we do this, and people realize, okay, here's what we're doing. They would sign up. I say you need a reason and a season. Like, okay,
Yes.
this is the season. It's quarter two, and we're gonna talk through this thing. And so when you do that, we've got quarter four. I'm talking here in quarter four, and I just looked. We have for my clients, it's a 96% booking rate. The three people who haven't signed up are my dad, my mom, and my in-laws. But everybody else has signed up 100% non-family participation for the quarter four meeting.
I love everybody. Everyone listening is nodding their heads like, yep,
Yep.
that's right. Yep, yep. Mom and dad, they're the worst clients that we
Yeah.
have. Awesome. So now, okay, so you had the process, you called it the five-step process. Now you've named it, and
Hmm.
then you wrote the book. Tell us a little bit about sort of what was the goal with the book? How has that transformed and changed the way that you do business with prospects? And tell us a little bit about your process for writing it.
Yeah, with writing the book, it just felt like the natural next step. I've got the podcast, I've got the YouTube. So it's the Retire Today podcast. It's Mr. Retirement on YouTube. I'm sharing this process in general there, one-on-ones. It just felt like the next step, right, is to add the written word uh, to it. So one thing, a lot of people actually, since I wrote the book, a few people have asked me, I've always been thinking about the book. And my first question is, why? Why do
Mhm.
you want to write the book? And for some of them, it's like, well, that'd be a nice, fun thing to do or something. Like, no, it's not. It's not a nice, fun thing to do. It is a
No, I can attest to
incredible amount of
that.
work. And I say to them, if you have somebody you've got a message to get to, like if you have a message and you want to get it to somebody, then go ahead and write a book. But if you don't have a message, then don't bother getting it out there. So I had this message of I've got to get this retirement master planning process out to the people that I'm working with and I want to get in front of. And so that's why I wrote the book. But the process of writing a book, um, I could not have done this on my own. And so I did a 2-day workshop with Niche Pressworks, Nicole Gebhardt at Niche Pressworks, 2-day workshop to really kind of build out. She's got her process. I think it was probably a 7-step process. So we did step one of who do you want to write it to? Why are you writing the book? Who's the ideal client? What's the title of your book? Kind of going through these things. We built out
Mhm.
her like her one sheet book writing plan, and then from there, I did a day or two of coaching with her, and what we did initially, and then we built things out where we ended up having the name of the book, we had the name of every chapter, then we had the first paragraph of every chapter, then I wrote the first chapter, and she sent it to a story coach, somebody that works in Hollywood and does storyboarding and story coaching. He told me to completely rewrite it. And so then I rewrote it. He read it. He told me to actually rewrite it. And then finally, I got it correct of here's how you tell a story in a nonfiction book about retirement planning. And then I wrote chapters 2 and 3, sent it to Nicole, sent it to the editor, and then just kind of every few chapters from there, we were checking in to say, let's make sure this is on the right track. So writing a book took a process, and it took about a year. But it all started with who do I want to get a message to? I've got a message. I want to get it out to them. Let me plan that all out. And if at the end of that workshop, I thought, all right, I got nothing, or I don't want to go through this, then great. I kind of map some things out and learn some things. But then from there is, okay, I'm committed now. Like I am ready to go. I know exactly who I'm talking to. I know why I'm talking to them. I know what I'm going to talk to them about. And that's how I started writing the book.
Yeah, and so I'm going to guess what attracted to you to Nicole. Nicole, was that right? What attracted you to
Yep. Nicole
her
Gephardt. Yes.
program is that she had a process, right?
Yep.
And so like it's literally the same thing that we're trying to do with clients is if
Mm-hmm.
someone's like, "Hey, I'll write a book. I'll help you write a book." Versus, "Hey, I'll help you write a book and here's exactly how we're going to do it. And here's how long it's going to take for us to go through that. And here's what's going to happen first, then second, then third, then fourth." And it probably wasn't inexpensive, but it was probably worth it because it had this framework and a proven track record for you to follow. So, how have you been using the book with clients?
Yeah, so the just actually the process of writing a book really helped out because I would talk about step one, but I didn't really have a name for it.
Hmm.
And I would describe step one, but I didn't really have like a phrase for it. But now it's the first step is spend. It's what do you spend in retirement? And I've got all these little kind of phrases from it, like monthly lifestyle amount. annual expense items. It's an interesting exercise in branding that Dave Ramsey is just the master at it, right? He's got a 7 babies or 6 baby steps. And so now I'm talking about retirement spending plans, lifetime income plans. And then people are saying back to me, like, oh, I need to work on my retirement spending plan, my lifetime income plan. So just using the consistent language, and then it's like your clients are now part of the ecosystem. Like we're in this together. We're talking the same language, my
Vernacular,
next
you're using the
advisors.
same
Yeah.
language. Yes, I love
Yep.
that.
So that's
I
a
love
that's a
that.
huge part of it. The clients, half of them say, "I'm so sorry, I haven't read the book," and I was like, "It's okay. Like, it's not you're not going to get a grade on reading the book or not." The other half are like, "Well, I read the book and I realized this is all you do for me. Like, this is like I've heard this before, and that's good because that's saying that they heard what I said before. It's saying that our team and I are doing what we've promised them to do. But the two biggest ways that we're using the book is that, well, I'm trying to get it out there. People read the book. If they've read 222 pages of you and they go to your website, they're pretty well bought into how you go about doing things. So that's a
Mhm.
helpful thing on a kind of in a prospecting way. Maybe we'll stick to the prospecting way. My level of referrals have just skyrocketed this year, and I haven't done anything different other than write a book because it's a lot easier for your client to say, "Here, check out the book from my advisor," or "My
Mhm.
advisor has a book. You should go check it out." It's a lot easier to say that than it is to say, um, "Here's my phone number. Call my advisor. Here's their phone number." They're not going to do that. But for somebody to hand a book, I had a client, they bought 10 books on their own. I'm like, it's one of my top
That's so
clients.
cool.
I'm like, you could have told me, I would have shipped you 10 books. She was telling me about this. She's like, I'm all out. I bought 10 bucks. I have to go buy more. I'm like, well, here's five,
Yeah.
And so I'm giving them a client so that they can give away because it's a lot easier. There's a tangible thing right there. Just
Yeah,
even
such a low
handing a
barrier of
book.
entry. It's not
Yeah.
painful, it's not hard. There's
Hmm.
very little friction in
Exactly.
handing somebody a book. I love that.
Yeah, and they
Well,
say
Finn,
thank you. If you say, "Hey, call my financial advisor. Here's a phone number," you're like, okay. If you say, "Here's a book," you're like, "Well, thank you," right?
yeah, yeah. I love that. So, how many prospects, like, so what percentage of your prospects would you say at this point now come in like fully, like read the book, listened to the pod, like they're taking in all the Jeremy and all of the different places? Is it a pretty high percentage of people?
Yeah, because at the minimum, they're just going to Google you, right, and find you your website. But people are often they're calling in for other reasons. Like maybe they found us online, and then we book a meeting and we send them the 5-step retirement plan process. Let me tell you, here's a great story. So this summer, 4th of July, I there's a 4th of July parade nearby our office. So our family, another family, we said let's just meet up at my office because we'll know we can get parking. And then the wife, the family, she said, "Oh, you've got the top billing." Like so on the sign outside, I've got my Keil Financial Partners. It's the top one. She said, "How did that happen?" I said, "Well, you pay $5,000, you can get the top billing." And she kind of looked at me because she's a teacher. She's like, "Well, $5,000. I maybe shouldn't have dropped that number." But she kind of looked at me. She's like, "Well, is it worth it?" I said, "Not yet." Well, that's 4th of July weekend. Get in the office, and there is and come back on Monday. Someone's booked on my calendar, and it said to book on our calendar, you have to say, "How did you find Keil Financial Partners?" And they wrote, "I saw your sign when I was driving by." So like literally that
Okay.
day, somebody saw the sign, but when they booked, they get an email saying, "Thanks for booking. Here's the 5 steps we take our clients through. If you'd like, please, review them ahead of time." And so then we met him and said, "Hey, what questions do you have?" He said, "Nothing. Like I'm ready to go." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, I watched your 5-step videos, and then another one of my emails is check out my retirement YouTube." He said, "Then I watched your YouTube channel about what it's like to invest $5 million for retirement, and I've got $5 million for retirement." And so then I kind of nudged my wife, and so we're watching your video in bed at like 9 o'clock at night on our TV about $5 million retirement planning and tax savings, and like that's what we want. And so they went through and they signed up basically ahead of time because of the process they were introduced to. And then I did my book signing. They were one of the first people to show up. Like they were just almost kind of, they almost looked at me like I was a celebrity
I love that.
in a
Yes.
way. Like it felt a
Yeah.
little weird, but that's kind of how it was. Like they were the first in line. Like, It was a confirmation to them. Like
Yeah.
they signed up, they moved $5 million. And then a month later, they're at the book signing for their financial advisor, and it
This
felt
guy's
like,
the real
okay,
deal.
yeah, like
Yeah.
we made the right choice. And so they got a book. I give them a second book. Like, here, hand it to a friend as well.
Who also needs $5 billion invested for them. Yes.
Exactly.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for just always being so generous with your knowledge and experience and expertise. And I've been grateful for our friendship for all of these years, but thank you so much for coming back on the show and being willing to share. Is there anything else that you wanted to share before we sign off?
Yeah, glad to talk through the process of writing a book, the process of creating
Mhm.
process. If you want the book, it's called Retire Today, Create Your Retirement Master Plan in 5 Simple Steps. And you probably know how to create your own retirement plan. You're probably a financial advisor listening to this, but you can see, okay, how did Jeremy here put together the process? How did we
Mhm.
kind of take the reader journey on through? And you can find that book at jeremykeil.com, JeremyKeil.com. And you can also reach out to me there. So I'd love to hear from you.
Perfect. I will make sure we drop the link for that in the show notes. And this is another reason Jeremy and I connected years ago is that we have the crazy last name spellings where it's an
Yes.
EI and it.
Yep.
So you always have to spell it out. But thank you so much. I will make sure we drop that in the show notes. I'll also make sure that people know how to connect with you over on LinkedIn. Thank you so much, Jeremy.
Thank you, Libby.